Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav, and with me is Aditi Lumba, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi dedicates and lays foundation stone of development projects worth 11,581 crore rupees in Himachal Pradesh. COVID-19 cases are rising sharply around the world. More than 1,400 flights cancelled on Monday. China tightens lockdown measures in Xi'an as COVID cases surge. In Afghanistan, Taliban bans solo women from travelling longer distances. In USA, heavy storms battered western regions, leaving thousands without power. And Janvi Dangeti creates record, becomes first Indian to complete NASA program. As India marches towards administering 150 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, news about the new corona variant is a cause for concern. In this situation, we appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and help others get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now, the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that the people of Himachal Pradesh have got huge benefits from the double-engine government as the pace of development in the state has accelerated in every sphere. He was addressing a public meeting at Paddal Maidan in Mandi district on the completion of 4 years of the BJP government. Earlier, the Prime Minister also dedicated and laid foundation stones of development projects worth 11,581 crore rupees. These include the foundation stone for the Dhaula Sidh hydropower, Luhri Phase 1 hydroelectric project and Renukaji Dam projects, while the Savara Kuddu hydroelectric project was inaugurated.
यहाँ थोड़ी देर पहले 11,000 करोड़ रुपए की लागत वाले 4 बड़े हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक प्रोजेक्ट का शिलान्यास या फिर लोकार्पण भी किया गया है। इनसे हिमाचल की आय बढ़ेगी और रोजगार के हजारों अवसर भी बढ़ेंगे। सावड़ा कुड्डू प्रोजेक्ट हो, लुहरी प्रोजेक्ट हो, धौला सिद्ध प्रोजेक्ट हो या रेणुका जी प्रोजेक्ट, ये सभी हिमाचल की आकांक्षा और देश की आवश्यकता की पूर्ति दोनों के माध्यम से होने वाली है।
Emphasizing on a nationwide campaign against single-use plastic, the Prime Minister called for a joint effort to keep the environment clean. He congratulated the state government on achieving 100% target of double dose of COVID vaccine in Himachal Pradesh. Mr. Modi said India had set a target in 2016 to meet 40% of its installed electricity capacity from non-fossil energy sources by 2030, and today every Indian will be proud that India has achieved this goal in November this year itself.
हमारी सरकार का ईज ऑफ लिविंग मॉडल पर्यावरण के प्रति सचेत और पर्यावरण की रक्षा करने में भी मदद कर रहा है। आज यहां जो हाइड्रो पावर प्रोजेक्ट का शिलान्यास और लोकार्पण हुआ है, वो भी क्लाइमेट फ्रेंडली न्यू इंडिया की तरफ देश का एक मजबूत कदम है।
Recorded COVID cases are rising sharply around the world, largely driven by the Omicron variant. Despite early findings that Omicron is milder than other coronavirus variants, scientists are concerned by the sheer number of infections being recorded. More COVID-related flight cancellations globally as the week starts, capping off a miserable festive period for thousands of people. We have this report.
More than 1,400 flights have been scrapped on Monday. In all, more than 8,000 flights have been grounded over the long Christmas weekend that began on Friday. US Airlines has said that disruption is due to crews testing positive or isolating. Hong Kong is banning all South Korea's Korean air flights for 2 weeks after positive cases among some arrivals. In a separate development, US authorities are monitoring dozens of cruise ships hit by COVID cases while sailing in the country's waters, with several of them reportedly denied port in the Caribbean. In the UK, British Airways has 42 cancellations on Monday. London's Heathrow Airport has 47 scrapped flights. America's Johns Hopkins University told that nearly 5.4 million people have died with coronavirus worldwide and almost 280 million cases have been confirmed. Anita Anand for World News, AIR.
The Chinese city of Xi'an is facing tightened lockdown restrictions as the city is witnessing continuous rise in COVID-19 cases. Xi'an, where 13 million residents are under lockdown for 5 days, is battling the largest community outbreak in China this year. China is witnessing a spike in COVID-19 cases ahead of Beijing Winter Olympics in February 2022, as authorities reported 162 new locally transmitted infections on Monday, up from 158 on Sunday. Xi'an reported 150 new local symptomatic coronavirus cases, with officials warning that people flouting rules on travel and testing could face detention and fines. The new case number marks the highest count of local symptomatic infections since the daily bulletin provided by the National Health Commission started to classify asymptomatic carriers separately from March last year. A major Israeli hospital will begin administering a fourth COVID-19 vaccine shot to 150 staff on Monday in a trial aimed at gauging whether a second booster is necessary nationwide, the facility said. Sheba Medical Center near Tel Aviv said its trial would shed light on the efficacy of a fourth dose and help decision-makers set health policy in Israel and abroad. Israel has reported 1,118 confirmed cases of the fast-spreading Omicron coronavirus variant, where the number of people infected by it doubling every 2 days. A health ministry panel of experts has recommended offering a fourth dose of vaccine to Israelis aged 60 and over who received a booster shot at least 4 months ago. Meanwhile, final approval by the ministry's Director General is still pending amid public debate as to whether sufficient scientific information is available to justify a new booster drive.
France has recorded more than 1 lakh virus infections in a single day for the first time in the pandemic, and COVID-19 hospitalizations have doubled over the past month as the fast-spreading Omicron variant complicates the French government's efforts to stave off a new lockdown. Most new infections are linked to the Omicron variant, which government experts predict will be dominant in France in the coming days. Omicron is already dominant in Britain right across the Channel. Meanwhile, a surge in Delta variant infections in recent months is pushing up hospital admissions in France and putting ICUs under strain again over the Christmas holidays. More than 1,000 people in France with the virus died over the past week, bringing the country's overall death toll to more than 122,000. President Emmanuel Macron's government is holding emergency meetings on Monday to discuss the next steps in tackling the virus. Some scientists and educators have urged delaying the post-holiday return to school or suggested reimposing a curfew. In India, 578 cases of Omicron have been reported so far. Out of the total Omicron cases, Delhi has reported the highest number of 142 cases, followed by Maharashtra 141 and Kerala 57 cases. The Union Health Ministry said till now 151 people have recovered from the infection.
In Afghanistan, ruling Taliban issued new travel restrictions for the country's women on Sunday. The Ministry for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice Directive limits a woman's ability to travel farther than 72 kilometers unless accompanied by a close male relative. The directive also calls on vehicle owners to refuse rides to women not wearing Islamic face coverings or hijabs, although it does not say which type of covering to use. Most Afghan women already wear headscarves. The majority of secondary school remains shut for girls, while most women have been banned from working. It also bans the playing of music in vehicles. Meanwhile, Human Rights Watch said the new restriction moved further towards making women prisoners. In the USA, heavy storms have battered western regions of the country, leaving thousands without power. Media report says almost 76 centimeters snow fell in parts of Northern California in 24 hours, causing blackouts and road closures. Avalanche warnings were put into effect on Sunday for parts of Nevada, Utah, Idaho, Montana, Colorado and California as the storms created widespread areas of unstable snow. Over the weekend, Southern California was hit by rainstorms, which saw power lines snap and streets flooded. The National Weather Service, NWS, in Reno, Nevada said snowstorms would remain heavy into M, and forecasters have warned the travel could prove difficult in the region for several days. Power cuts affected residents in Washington, Oregon and other areas. Also, Northern California was the worst hit.
In Japan, a massive dump of snow is hitting the sea coast, freezing travel in some areas. Japanese weather officials are urging people in several regions to stay home. The Japan Meteorological Agency says the persistent influx of cold air is at a level not seen in several years. Some areas in western Japan are experiencing record amounts of snow for a 24-hour period. Officials warn the snow is expected to gradually move east and continue falling tomorrow. The winter weather has caused traffic headaches. A truck driver lost control on a major road in the western prefecture of Shiga, causing a traffic jam more than 2 kilometers long. The snow has caused more than 40 flights to be cancelled. Passengers on the Tokaido and Sanyo Shinkansen bullet trains have also faced delays. The snow has also caused blackouts in some parts of western Japan, where the officials are warning of potential avalanches. After weeks of heavy rain overwhelming the already swollen rivers, 2 dams in Brazil's Bahia state burst and flooded surrounding towns. In the town of Itabuna, residents could be seen using inflatable rafts and canoes to deliver supplies to neighbors. The rains have caused at least 18 deaths in Bahia since the beginning of November, and thousands of people have been moved from some of the 67 towns facing further flooding.
In Myanmar, a court has postponed verdicts in 2 cases against the ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi till 10th of January. The court has expected to give verdict in 2 cases relating to unlawful procurement of walkie-talkies on Monday. No reason was given for the postponement of the verdict. This is the second postponement of the verdict after 20th of December, when it was scheduled for announcement. Earlier this month, the court had sentenced Aung San Suu Kyi to 4 years of imprisonment on charges of incitement and breaching of COVID-19 laws. Former State Councillor Aung San Suu Kyi faces a long prison term if convicted of multiple charges framed against her by the military government. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
In today's Hotspots section, we bring you a special highlight, the year that was for Nepal and the strength of India-Nepal ties.
Nepal had its fair share of developments on political, economic and other fronts in the year. The fight back against COVID-19 pandemic has been a remarkable feature of the Himalayan kingdom. India-Nepal relations had its own ups and downs, but picked up pace gradually. Let us take a look at the year gone by for Nepal and what lies in store for a new year to come. The year began with a political turmoil which saw the ex-Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli being ousted and replaced by Sher Bahadur Deuba as the new Nepali Premier. The reason? Nepal Supreme Court set aside the dissolution of the parliament by KP Sharma Oli amidst widespread protests. Later, the Apex Court rescinded the merger of the 2 Nepal Communist Party factions. The factions led by Oli and former Prime Minister Prachanda were listed as separate entities. Now Nepal is bracing up for fresh elections in 2022. Political developments had a twist in the tale with the growing interference of China in Nepali politics. Frequent visits by the Chinese ambassador to Nepal, Hu Yanqi to the former PM KP Sharma Oli and the Communist parties was out in open. Chinese goods and companies made deep inroads into the Nepali market and local traders were at the receiving end. The encroachment by the Chinese army, PLA, in the villages along Nepal-China border brought to the fore the fault lines despite the official denials by both sides. It remains to be seen if the Chinese carry on with the same impunity. COVID-19 acted as a dampener in terms of high-level visits to and from Nepal. Efforts gathered momentum with the Nepali Foreign Minister Pradeep Gayawali's visit to New Delhi in January for the 6th meeting of India-Nepal Joint Commission. On the sidelines of 76th UN General Assembly session, external affairs ministers of the two countries discussed bilateral relations. At the political level, a special delegation of Nepali Congress Party visited New Delhi and held talks with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Towards the later half of the year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Nepali counterpart Sher Bahadur Deuba met in Glasgow on the sidelines of COP26 summit in November. They discussed strengthening bilateral relations, climate change, COVID-19 and resolve to work together towards post-pandemic recovery. Prime Minister Sher Bahadur Deuba has been re-elected as the Nepali Congress President and he has sought support for stronger bilateral relations. His upcoming visit to India in January for the vibrant Global Gujarat Summit is a reflection of how important are the regular interactions and exchanges at high level for better ties. Increasing imports, slow growth in domestic production, decline in exports, low remittances and a reduction in foreign exchange reserves in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic cast its shadows on the Nepal's economy. Tourism, which is the major source of revenue for Nepal, declined while the mountain climbing and Everest trekking took a big hit. Total trade deficit went up by 56.8% year-on-year during July to November 2021. However, India continued to provide assistance to the landlocked Nepal as its largest trading partner and one of the largest investors. India accounts for over two-thirds of Nepal's merchandise trade and about one-third of trade in services and one-third of foreign investments. Almost entire petroleum supplies is sourced from India, while a substantial share of remittances comes from Nepali pensioners, professionals and workers in India. During the difficult times of COVID-19 pandemic, essential medical supplies, hydroxychloroquine and remdesivir were sent to Kathmandu. A number of Nepali citizens were repatriated from abroad as a part of Vande Bharat mission. Under Vaccine Maitri initiative, New Delhi sent 1 million doses of COVID vaccine in January to mark the launch of nationwide inoculation drive in the Himalayan kingdom. Till date, India has supplied 9.5 million doses of COVID vaccine to Nepal. Both the sides have also signed a reciprocal recognition of vaccination certificates to ease the travel woes. It is noteworthy that despite tall promises by China, the Nepal government gave priority to Covishield vaccine by Serum Institute of India thanks to logistics, pricing and the procurement held by the government of India. Housing sector, especially in the areas ravaged by the earthquakes, got a push with the massive reconstruction works in Nepal. Over 50,000 houses have been built with India's assistance in Gorkha and Nuwakot districts and handed over to the residents. In the power sector, Nepal has inked $1.3 deal with Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam, that is SJVN, for a 679 megawatt Lower Arun hydropower project in eastern Nepal. This is the single largest foreign investment project in Nepal. In another development, Power Ministry entered into a memorandum of understanding under which Nepal can sell its surplus electricity to India at a competitive rate. For landlocked Nepal, connectivity is a major issue. Konkan Railways has built the first broad-gauge cross-border rail link between Jayanagar in India and Kurtha in Nepal. The 34-kilometer-long rail link will cover 6 stations in an hour. Extending a helping hand, India signed a memorandum of understanding with Nepal on 7th of October for the Raxaul-Kathmandu broad-gauge railway line. Once completed, goods can be directly transported to Kathmandu from India. For trains to bus services, the Friendship Express kept rolling on. India-Nepal Friendship Bus Service resumed its operations on the Kathmandu-Kakarvita-Siliguri route after a gap of 18 months on 9th of November. Delhi-Kathmandu bus service also resumed operations from 15th of December. It was closed due to COVID pandemic. People-to-people contact has been a mainstay of Nepal-India ties. The military has carried the tradition forward with 32,000 Nepali Gorkha soldiers serving in the Indian Army. The Indian Army Chief General M.M. Naravane was conferred the title of Honorary General of Nepali Army by the President of Nepal in Kathmandu on 4th of November. Nepali Army Chief General Prabhu Ram Sharma, an alumnus of the National Defence College, was conferred the title of the Honorary General of Indian Army by the President of India, Ramnath Kovind, in New Delhi on 10th of November. The 5-decade-old tradition is a reflection of strong ties between the two militaries. Human resource development in Nepal has been one of the prime contributions by India in Nepal. Every year, around 3,000 scholarships or seats are reserved for Nepalese nationals for higher degrees in various courses. These are in sectors ranging from engineering, medical, agriculture, computer applications, business administration, music, fine arts, etc. The higher studies and technical trainings have helped a large number of Nepalese to pursue a career. Historical and cultural linkages have been a part and parcel of the Bhai-Bhai ka rishta between the two countries. Art, culture, music, literature, dance and language have acted as a bridge. Be it Mahashivratri or Buddha Purnima, the celebrations on both sides have glimpses of the common ethos and the values. Over the years, it has been bolstered by the free movement of people between the two countries, which is quite remarkable in an era of divided world. As India and Nepal celebrate 75 years of diplomatic relations on 17 June 2022, stage is set for a stronger connect. Shared vibes on regional forums like SAARC, BIMSTEC and other global forums add value to it. Trade and security interests, historical and cultural linkages and people-to-people ties are bound to give a fresh impetus to the age-old ties in 2022.
Janvi Dangeti, a young girl from Andhra Pradesh, has just completed NASA's International Air and Space Program IASP at the Kennedy Space Center in Alabama, United States, making her the first Indian to accomplish this feat. She's part of a carefully shortlisted group of 20 students from around the world. The program offered students rigorous training in zero gravity, underwater rocket launches, aircraft handling, multi-access training and more. She was also appointed as the mission director for Team Kennedy, comprising 16 people from around the world, and successfully headed a miniature rocket launch.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said that Western countries should have a united front against China to prevent the Asian state from using commercial interests to play them against each other. Trudeau, in an interview, said China has been playing Western countries against one another as they compete for access to economic opportunities in the country. Relations between Canada and China have been chilly since the 2018 detention of Huawei Chief Financial Officer Meng Wanzhou on a U.S. extradition warrant. Earlier this month, Canada said it will join allies in the diplomatic boycott of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing in February to send China a message over its human rights record. Defence Secretary Dr. Ajay Kumar has lauded the Border Roads Organisation for constructing 102 new roads and bridges connecting remote border areas. Inaugurating the annual Chief Engineers and Equipment Management Conference of Border Roads Organisation BRO in New Delhi on Monday, Dr. Kumar also praised the grit and determination of the BRO personnel for the construction of Umling-La Pass, Atal Tunnel and Zojala Pass recently. He commended this BRO for contributing immensely in national building by constructing strategic infrastructure including roads, bridges, tunnels and airfields along the border areas. This has bolstered the operational preparedness and facilitated speedy movement of equipment and personnel to far-flung areas.
The Sensex and the Nifty today gained around 0.5%. Both stocks gained amid mixed cues from the global equity markets. The Sensex closed above 57,400 points, a report from the Business World.
The BSE Sensex rose 296 points or 0.52% to trade at 57,420. The NSE Nifty also added 83 points or 0.49% to trade at 17,086. Asian stock markets were generally weaker as uncertainty over the economic impact of Omicron coronavirus variant weighed on investor sentiment. South Korea's Kospi and Japan's Nikkei 225 both slipped 0.4%. Singapore's Straits Times and China's Shanghai Composite Index both fell 0.1%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng added 0.1%. European markets were also mixed in intraday trade. Oil fell after U.S. airlines called off thousands of flights over the Christmas holidays amid surging COVID-19 cases. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading around $76 per barrel. And in the forex market, the rupee appreciated marginally by 2 paise against the U.S. dollar. This is Lalema Aneja Dang for World News, All India Radio.
The second day's play, the first test between India and South Africa, was washed off at Centurion due to constant rain. The opening day's play was also delayed at the start due to heavy rain. After delayed start, visitors scored 272 for the loss of 3 wickets in the first test of the 3-match series. Opener K.L. Rahul on 122 and Ajinkya Rahane on 40 were at the crease when stumps were drawn yesterday. Earlier, India won the toss and opted to bat.
Hockey India named 60 players for the senior women's national camp, which began on Monday at the Sports Authority of India, Bengaluru. The players have been selected based on their performance at the recently held 11th Hockey India Senior Women National Championship 2021. The 60-member list also includes players who have been retained from the senior women's core group basis their performance in the international tournaments, and players who have done well for the junior women's team have also been selected in this group, which will be pruned down to 33 players ahead of their preparations for the Women's Asia Cup 2022. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian reports Capitol panel to investigate Trump call to Willard Hotel in hours before attack. Sputnik News writes, Russia demands NATO to cancel its decision that Ukraine, Georgia can someday join alliance. Tolo News reports, Russian troops return to bases after drills near Ukraine. The Globe and Mail reports COVID-19 cases in Canada top 2 million as hospitals brace for Omicron waves unknowns. The Japan Times says community transmissions of Omicron spreads beyond Japan's major cities. The Street Journal wall, Iraq's top court rejects election challenge by pro-Iran faction. And South China Morning Post reports U.S. wants China visas for 18 officials to attend Winter Olympics, Beijing confirms.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi dedicates and lays foundation stone of development projects worth 11,581 crore rupees in Himachal Pradesh. COVID-19 cases are rising sharply around the world. More than 1,400 flights cancelled on Monday. China tightens lockdown measures in Xi'an as COVID cases surge. In Afghanistan, Taliban bans solo women from traveling longer distances. In United States of America, heavy storms battered western regions, leaving thousands without power. And Janvi Dangeti creates a record, becomes the first Indian to complete the NASA program. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Myanmar. With that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.